வணக்கம். இனிய பொங்கல் வாழ்த்துக்கள். I warmly wish all of you and my brother Gurumurthy ji and all the distinguished dignitaries on the dais, off the dais. We have Tamilisai ji here, former governor. I'm indeed very, very privileged to be in Chennai, to be in Tamil Nadu on this auspicious occasion of Pongal, when we celebrate gratitude, we celebrate prosperity and the harmony between nature and humanity. It's a very vibrant city which embodies Tamil Nadu's rich cultural heritage and intellectual brilliance. And what can be a better platform than Thuglak to be able to speak to an intellectual audience like all of you? In fact, this is a celebration of the remarkable journey of the Thuglak magazine, a beacon of intellectual discourse and fearless journalism for over 5 decades now. With its sharp wit and biting satire, it has consistently illuminated the most pressing social and political issues. Thiru CH Ramaswami ji was truly an extraordinary, gifted and multifaceted personality. He was a writer, dramatist, journalist, political commentator, humorist, and also an artist. During the emergency, while most others fell silent, Thuglak dared to publish with a black cover, exposing the darkness of the authoritarian regime of Srimati Indira Gandhi. Friends, I'm indeed very, very happy that Shri Gurumurthy ji has continued to lead Thuglak magazine true to the spirit of CH Ramaswami ji. He has kept up his legacy. He continues to challenge corruption, and with a sharp intellect, he fights against authoritarianism, he fights against appeasement politics, he fights against dynastic rule. Whether it is exposing the Bofors scam, and we all remember his huge contribution to the fight against corruption, where he exposed Rajiv Gandhi ji's corruption as a young journalist, and whether it is continuing to lead the fight in Tamil Nadu against dynastic rule, his contribution will play a very important role in the future of Tamil Nadu, in the future of our motherland Bharat. The fearless spirit of Thuglak in standing steadfast against authoritarianism embodies the very essence of a thriving democracy. This same spirit resonates with India's journey as seen in the historic 2024 elections. In fact, friends, last year, nearly 70 democracies, 70 countries with democratic governments went to the polls, representing a very large span of humanity across the globe. Only 17 governments out of 70 were re-elected. Only 17. And within that, India stood out. Not only because 65.7% of our people, 2/3 of our voters went out there to vote, which is a record by itself in a national election But more important, and in fact the global average is about 61% last year. We were 65.7%. But more importantly, the world's most populous democracy re-elected Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the third consecutive time. The people of India voted for stability and continuity. The people of India trusted their fate, their future, and the future of their families and children with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Friends, I have also served in the Rajya Sabha for 14 years, but I can share with you that I feel so deeply humbled and joyous that I have got the opportunity to represent North Mumbai in my first Lok Sabha election this year. The deep connect you get with the people when you get into the people's mandate is something special. And I've learned so much in the last 7 months as a Lok Sabha member of Parliament. I've been able to do so much to give back to my Janma Bhumi and my Karma Bhumi that I do feel privileged, and I would like to acknowledge and thank every one of the citizens of India, every one of you, for the trust you have reposed in Prime Minister Modi and all of us in his team. If you look at this mandate, it's a testament of the people's trust in a vision that prioritizes development and preserves the cultural identity of India. Prime Minister Modi says, Vikas bhi or Virasat bhi. It is equally important to develop, but equally important to preserve our culture, our traditions, our family value systems, our heritage, and therefore this result is a reflection of the rejection of dynastic politics, the rejection of appeasement politics, and the rejection of corruption that several parties came together and represented. The people of India did not trust anybody but Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They have embraced Sushashan, good governance. Over the past decade in government at the center, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has turned every challenge into an opportunity, creating a robust foundation for Viksit Bharat at 2047 when we celebrate 100 years of independence. This remarkable rise over the last 10 years is not by accident. It is the result of a structured and outcome-oriented approach rooted in clear principles of good governance and powered by 5 Ds. The 5 Ds are democracy, the demographic dividend, the demand that 140 crore Indians provide, the opportunities that that demand provides, the diversity that we see across India, and the determination, the dependability, and the decisive leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Let me share 10 foundational principles with some small examples of how Prime Minister Modi has run his government for 10 years on very basic principles which I hope will resonate with all of you. These principles have driven this decade of unprecedented growth and transformation. First, his decisive leadership is seen when you see that Article 370 and Article 35A were abrogated, were completely removed from the constitution because they were holding back the unity and integrity of India. Most people did not ever believe that in our lifetime we will be able to see Kashmir as an integral part of India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah had the courage of conviction that this can happen, this must happen, and this is good for India. And lo and behold, on 5th and 6th of August 2019, in the second term, the bill was passed, removing Article 370 and 35A from the Constitution. While we needed only a majority in both houses, we got a 2/3 majority of the members present and voting in both houses of Parliament. Rajya Sabha, in fact, the NDA did not even have a simple majority at that time. But it was the people's desire, and it was the desire and the collective determination of 140 crore people's aspiration that Kashmir becomes a part of India. This decisive leadership was also seen during the surgical strikes when Prime Minister Narendra Modi said we will not tolerate any incursion into India. We will not tolerate the terrorist activities in India. And an eye for an eye, he gave it right back, whether it was the surgical strike or the Balakot airstrikes. After that, terrorism has continuously seen a decline. That is the only language that decisive leadership can give to terrorists. Friends, the second principle that this government has focused on is a root cause analysis. We do that in management all the time. Prime Minister Modi goes to the root of the problem. जड़ों में जाते हैं, समस्या के जड़ में जाके उसका समाधान करना. When you go to the root of the problem, your work will result in multifaceted and multidimensional benefits. I'll share a small example. I was the power minister in 2014. And India had regional grids, southern grid, western grid, eastern grid, northern grid. In fact, when we came into government in 14, just a few days before that, there was a huge outage of power all across the northern parts of India. One journalist had written an article saying that my entry into the power ministry was baptism by power, baptism by outage. That was the severity of the outage, power outage. We had gone into darkness in most parts of North India. Also, during those days, southern India had a huge power shortage. And at peak hours, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, most of the southern states used to buy power in peak hours at 11 rupees, 12 rupees per kilowatt hour, per unit of power. Even my state of Maharashtra was paying 8-9 rupees during peak hours. Whereas in northern India, we had sufficient power, in fact, excess power, so that even in peak hours, power was available at 2.5, 3 rupees. Prime Minister Modi ordered that let's do an interconnection of all the grids of India so that power flows from the north to the south. And friends, within 3 years, we interconnected all the grids, and the power cost in northern India and southern India became exactly the same. At 3 rupees, you could get power in southern states of India, because of which we could ensure the farmers, businesses and the people can enjoy 24/7 power through the length and breadth of the country. That also had another dimension. It helped the massive growth of renewable energy. We have just celebrated 200 gigawatts of renewable energy in the country. This was possible because of this national grid Otherwise, intermittent wind and solar power, you cannot absorb in regional grids beyond a point. But because we now have a national grid, we can absorb much greater degree of intermittent power in the afternoon, solar power comes, in the evening wind power comes. Some days it is there, some days it is not there. It can only go in when there is a sufficient base load, and that could happen when we interconnected all the grids. Incidentally, see how the multidimensional benefits come. Because we now have an interconnected grid and we have such a substantial amount of renewable energy, the world is looking up to India to set up data centers in India. They want green data centers, they want highly reliable power. No other country has such a large interconnected grid, and therefore they are interested in coming and investing in India. That will create more jobs, that will bring the technology space, artificial intelligence, data analytics, all that business will come to India, and India will grow faster and smarter. The multidimensional benefits you get when you do a root cause analysis is something that this government has focused on many plans. When we do healthcare, when we do free homes for the poor, the idea is not just the healthcare. The idea is give healthcare and make the family go up in prosperity so that they are not troubled with loans or their savings are not wiped away if anybody becomes ill at home. So every program of this government is focused on welfare of the people and has multidimensional benefits. The third principle is outcome-oriented action. The effort of this government has always been that whatever we do should have a significant outcome on the people of the country. I remember it was in 2015. We now have the 15th August annual speech by the Honorable Prime Minister from the ramparts of the Red Fort. On 15th August 2015, while giving his address to the nation at the Red Fort, the Prime Minister announced that within 1,000 days, he will make sure that even the remotest village of the country, every village in the country which did not have power, he will make sure that power reaches those villages. And he gave a timeline of 1,000 days. And friends, there were 18,452 villages which had never seen power. Some of them were even as near as 100 kilometers from Delhi, the national capital, near Agra. Some of them were on mountain tops. Some of them were in the deep jungles and forests where Naxal activities at that time used to exist. But under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, within 3 years, less than 3 years, in 1,000 days, we made sure 18,452 villages got power connection, and then we launched Saubhagya Yojana so that the 3.5-4 crore homes which did not have power, which had never seen electricity in their home, their children were not privileged to get electricity. That many of them used to study at the railway station or study under a solar lamp. We made sure that every willing household gets 24/7 electricity, and no child in this country is ever deprived of his ability to educate himself, to study and become a good citizen of this country. Sometimes I used to wonder, why did the Prime Minister give me the power ministry? But then I think it's possibly because he knew that my father had to study under a street lamp when he was doing his preparations for engineering college. Maybe it was a debt of that I had to pay back, and that is an opportunity for which I'll always be grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister. And all the programs have to be time-bound. Time-bound execution has been his hallmark. This was completed in 1,000 days. No delays. And projects are monitored. Projects are monitored at the ministerial level. We have a project monitoring group in our ministry which monitors all the infra projects. Then we have a Pragati program where Prime Minister monitors projects to make sure that projects get completed in a time-bound fashion. The rule of law and transparency has been another hallmark of Prime Minister Modi's good governance. All natural resources are auctioned today, started with the coal mines. You may remember Coalgate, the scandal where 186 coal mines were handed out to friends and relatives and party supporters free of cost, without due process. Prime Minister Modi changed all the rules. The Supreme Court struck down all these irregular coal block allotments. Prime Minister Modi brought a new law, and now no natural resources, whether it's the telecom scandal, which Tamil Nadu people know very well, or Coalgate, all of that is in the history books now. Every government natural resource is auctioned, and the benefit of the auction money goes to serve the people of the country. Similarly, prioritization of issues has been very important. I remember when I became railway minister, we realized a lot of accidents take place due to unmanned level crossings. So we decided in the railways that in a time-bound manner, we will eliminate all the unmanned railway crossings in the country. And it was a difficult task. The officers were feeling challenged. But once Prime Minister Modi makes up his mind, he makes sure it happens. Look at Swachh Bharat. When Prime Minister Modi spoke of Swachh Bharat, some of the opposition leaders really criticized him. They said, who speaks of Swachhata in the important address on 15th August? But he was convinced that he wanted to give dignity to our sisters, to our daughters. He just could not accept that half the population in this country did not have toilets in their home. 11 crore toilets were built free of charge, so that no daughter, no sister, no mother, and for that matter, it's a matter of indignity for all of us, ever has to go to the fields for their morning course. And today there's a competition all over the country. Cities are fighting, districts are fighting with each other for the Swachhata rankings. There's another matter that I think Chennai has slipped in the Swachhata ranking very sharply last year. And the government of Tamil Nadu will really have to perk up and get back up on the Swachhata rankings. It's a very unfortunate that the slippage is not small, it's a steep slippage. And the government should really work towards getting back up the rankings. Accountability and monitoring has been very important as a good governance measure. Every project, there's deep monitoring. People are held accountable and responsible for their actions. And that has been something that every minister, every bureaucrat in the center has been trained to become more responsible, more accountable to the people of India. We have adopted technology in a big way in several initiatives. For example, GEM, the government e-marketplace. Now technology is used for all government procurement. Similarly, we've used innovative financing models so that government can take welfare and the benefits of social welfare to the people of India. You are all aware of the Janam, Aadhaar and Mobile, the JAM Trinity, by which nearly 35 lakh crore worth of government support to the poor has reached the people through the electronic transfer. Our Kisans get Kisan Samman Nidhi direct into their bank account. 4 crore families got a free home. That money came directly into their bank account. Another 3 crore we are planning to do in these 5 years up to 2029. So imagine 7 crore families would have got money into their bank account to build their own home. And they'll be having a home with a kitchen, with a toilet, with cooking gas, electricity, water from a tap. 25% of the population of India will move out from a shack or from a tin shed or from a jhuggi jhopdi into a proper home. And we all know how important it is to have a proper home for our children to get good quality life, good quality education. And finally, friends, everything that Prime Minister Modi has done, he has believed in a partnership with all stakeholders. He has believed in consultation. He has believed in cooperative and collaborative working, whether with the states, cooperative federalism, whether with industry, in taking decisions which are good for industry. The effort has been to involve stakeholders in all the activities that we do so that we can leverage in our globalization, in our international effort to take the country forward, the demand of 140 crore aspirational Indians, the rule of law that democracy provides, the decisive leadership that Prime Minister Modi gives, the demographic dividend that an under 30 population, a young population, which is an asset for India today, the talent, the skills of our young population can take this country to greater heights to become a Viksit Bharat by 2047. These principles are the backbone of India's remarkable rise. The topic of today is the rise of India and the challenges. This rise is shaping a future which is not just achievable, but aspirational. We aspire for an extraordinary future for the country. It is in this context that I believe RISE stands for resilience, for reform, R, I for innovation, for inclusiveness, inclusive growth, S for sustainability, for speed, skill and scale, the mantra of Prime Minister Modi, and E for empowerment, for entrepreneurship. And therefore, friends, these 10 principles have driven the 5 Ds and helped India rise in the last 10 years and will continue to help India in the next 22 years towards 2047 to become a prosperous nation. There are 6 areas that I'll briefly touch upon in which India's rise and our global foray can be seen. 1, India's rise in global leadership. 2, economy, manufacturing and investments. 3, innovation. 4, entrepreneurship. 5, infrastructure development and our development as a global superpower, global soft power. And 6, women-led development. Friends, the world today is seeing India's rise as a global superpower, as a globally recognized nation. Our G20 summit with 220 meetings held all across the country in over 60 locations showcased to the world India as an emerging power. We became the voice of the global south. We brought Africa and the African Union as the 21st country in the G20. Our theme, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family, resonated with all the global leaders. And our theme, one world, one future, one family. And friends, The 27-foot Nataraj statue at Bharat Mandapam, which you must be seeing, showcases Tamil Nadu's rich cultural heritage, which the whole world saw at Bharat Mandapam during the G20 summit. In fact, when humanity faced the worst crisis of COVID, India became the first responder. And through our Vaccine Maitri program, we provided free vaccines to over 150 less developed and developing nations. I don't know if you have noticed, Prime Minister Modi is one of the most awarded leaders in the world today. 19 nations have given him the highest civilian honor of their nation. 19 nations. And for those of us who get into more detail, 8 out of those 19 nations are Muslim majority nations. 10 nations are Christian majority nations. And 1 nation is a Buddhist majority nation. I think there can be no better rebuttal to the false narrative that some people try to spread against India, against Prime Minister Modi. He is the most inclusive leader with true secularism, who doesn't believe in appeasement politics, who believes in Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. 140 crore Indians, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, language, all have received benefit. All have been treated for a better future, given opportunities, treated well for more opportunities and a better future. So everybody is entitled to health care, everybody is entitled to free food grain, everybody is entitled to have a home. Every poor family has to rise as the nation rises, so that the country can aspire to take 140 crore people forward and ahead as the nation prospers. Friends, there's a Morning Consult survey that ranks international leaders. For 10 years, consistently, they have found Prime Minister Modi to be the most popular leader in the world. No wonder the Australian Prime Minister calls him boss. India, of course, has seen tremendous economic progress. It's become a hub of manufacturing, investments and exports in the last 10 years. In fact, if you will get into history, in 1998, when Prime Minister Vajpayee took charge of the government, the first NDA government, inflation was at 9%, growth was down to 4%, foreign exchange reserves were down to $29 billion. Country was in a shaky position. Vajpayee, through 6 years of good governance, brought inflation down to 4%, growth up to 8%, increased foreign exchange reserves to 3 times, or rather 3.5 times, over $100 billion at that time in 2004. And Mr. Chidambaram, the first finance minister of the UPA government from 4 to 14, in his interim budget speech actually mentioned, and I quote, "The economic fundamentals appear strong and balance of payments is robust." This is a speech in his first speech after UPA came into government in 2004. However, every time the Congress comes into power, they mess up the economy. From 4 to 14, despite inheriting such a robust economy, they once again reduced us down to a fragile 5 country, one of the 5 weakest economies in the world. Growth came down back to 4.5%. Inflation rose again into double digits. Foreign exchange reserves were tottering, because of which they had to borrow $35 billion at very, very expensive rates internationally. And the same Mr. Chidambaram in 2014, in his parting budget, said, I acknowledge that the Indian economy is challenged. He inherited a robust economy, left behind a challenged economy. And in 10 years, they were only able to take India from the 12th largest GDP to the 11th largest GDP in the world. What did Mr. Modi do in 10 years? He took India from the 11th largest GDP to the 5th largest GDP today. Mr. Chidambaram, in his final interim budget of 2014, had predicted, and I quote, while he was giving his vision for the future, of course he didn't know that he will have no role to play in the future. There is a well-argued view that in the next 3 decades, India's nominal GDP will take the country to the 3rd rank after US and China in 30 years. So in 14, he had predicted it will take India 30 years to become the 3rd largest GDP. And he was very proud about it. What did Mr. Modi do? He said, I'll do it in less than half that time. And I assure you, friends, by 2027, India will be the world's 3rd largest economy, ahead of Japan and Germany. In only 13 years, not 30. That is Prime Minister Modi's commitment and courage of conviction. I'll give you just one small example. While we have done a number of areas of improvement, look at the banking system. What did we inherit? A broken banking system. The PSU banks were losing 85,000 crores in a year when we came into government. Gross NPAs and restructured loans had gone up to 12 or 13%. Last year, State Bank alone made a profit of 61,000 crore rupees. Only State Bank. This year, probably then, in the year ending March 25, their profit may be upward of 80 or 90,000 crores. Overall, the banking system made a profit of 3 lakh crores. Net NPAs are down to less than 1%. That is the transformation. And sector by sector, I can tell you the story that under Prime Minister Modi, the story of change, the improvements, and the growth story. Whether it's the insolvency and bankruptcy code, whether it's the thriving stock market, our market cap is now nearly $5 trillion. Whether it's exports, Honorable Guru Murthy ji just mentioned, last year was a record $778 billion. This year we'll cross $800 billion of exports. And we'll maintain our current account deficit at still about 1% of GDP, which is a nominal, reasonable level to maintain. In fact, the Chennai facility of Foxconn, which is now making Apple mobile phones, is exporting worth 1 lakh crore of smartphones out of India. For that matter, we have now become the world's 2nd largest mobile manufacturer. You could have imagined that in 2014. Similarly, friends, we are focusing a lot on providing plug-and-play infrastructure. 20 industrial smart cities are being built all over the country, including in Tamil Nadu. We are also continuously looking at ease of doing business, decriminalizing laws. Our Jan Vishwas bill decriminalized 182 provisions in one bill itself. 182 provisions, criminal provisions, spread over 42 different acts of parliament, were decriminalized at one loco. Now we are coming up with Jan Vishwas Bill 2. And what is Jan Vishwas? People trust Narendra Modi, therefore Narendra Modi trusts the people of India. That is the Jan Vishwas spirit. Why should people have to go to jail or be threatened with jail for small mistakes? We are trying to decriminalize as many laws so that people can sleep at peace, do their work at peace, they can trade, they can run MSME and not be worried about draconian laws. Similarly, we've reduced the compliance burden in about 42,000 areas. And our effort is to continuously reduce the compliance burden. If the states participate and support us, we can do so much more. I'd just like to mention one thing, friends. During COVID, India is one of those rare countries which met every commitment we made to the rest of the world, whether for supply of goods or for supply of services. We quickly moved into homes, even during the lockdown, got broadband connectivity into homes, but not for a minute did anybody have to suffer for discontinuity of our commitment. And therefore, the world today looks upon India as a trusted partner. Vishwasniya Sajedar, trusted partner. And because they trust India, newer technologies, newer businesses, 1,600 global capability centers have been set up in India. 1,600. Fortune 500 companies are setting up offices in India, both to invest in India, creating jobs in India, and India today is serving the world. India today is making for the world. India today is designing for the world. India today is innovating for the world. Friends, I'm also involved in a number of free trade agreements. We are not doing free trade agreements like in the past. Every agreement is after extensive stakeholder consultation. Extensive. The agreements are fair, equitable, and balanced. In fact, when I did the agreement with Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein, and Iceland, EFTA block of 4 countries, I asked them, what do we get? You're a small country. We are not getting enough in return for opening up our economy to you. And for the first time in the history of free trade agreements, we now have a $100 billion commitment to invest in foreign direct investment from these countries, creating 10 lakh direct jobs and possibly 40-50 lakh indirect jobs in return for the free trade agreement. So every agreement is made to suit India's national interests. And when an agreement does not suit our national interests, like the Regional Comprehensive Agreement Partnership, RCEP, which Manmohan Singh ji had tried to get India to join and had, I think, thrown India under the bus by getting involved in the RCEP negotiations. Prime Minister Modi in Bangkok on 4th November 2019 stood before 15 country leaders and refused to join RCEP because it was not in the best interest of our farmers, it was not in the interest of our MSME, it would have been a floodgate of Chinese goods coming into India, which he wanted to protect India from, and therefore we refused to join RCEP. India does international agreements on our terms. Friends, innovation and entrepreneurship is another area where India has taken significant leap and rise. Our Global Innovation Index ranking has improved from 81 to 39. Our Digital India has laid the foundation, a solid foundation, due to which today 4G is available through the length and breadth of the country. 5G is going very fast across the country. We have already started developing our testbed for 6G in India, which will be indigenous technology. Startup India was launched on 16th January 2015. We'll celebrate 9 years day after tomorrow. We have 118 unicorns in India today. From 400 startups 9 years ago, We have 150,000 startups registered with the government today. The Prime Minister rightly said, sky is not the limit. And now we are making a deep foray into space technologies. Chandrayaan 3's historic lunar South Pole landing. Nigar Shaji, a trailblazing woman of substance from Tamil Nadu, led Aditya L1 mission. ISRO's efficiency is so good that we make our spacecrafts in less than a cost of a film. And we now aim to establish our own space station. At the same time, we are one of the best performing G20 countries when it comes to sustainability, the fight against climate change. Our hydrogen mission, our mission for circular economy, lifestyle for environment, the life mission that Prime Minister Modi offered the world, all of these are determining the world's sustainability programs today. Friends, in terms of infrastructure development, you are all witness to the growth of infrastructure. Our port capacity has doubled in the last 10 years. Our airports have doubled in the last 10 years from 74 to 158 now. It'll go up to 225 by 2029. 114 new inland waterways have come in. We have today a road network, a highway network, which is the envy of the world. The infrastructure in terms of metros, 1,000 kilometers of metros serving 25, 23 cities all over the country, making it the third largest, 23 cities, third largest metro network in the world. You have seen things like the coastal road in Mumbai, Atal Setu, 22-kilometer long bridge at the sea. The Zojila tunnel that is Asia's longest tunnel. World-class infrastructure is coming to India today. And this is what will define India's future growth story. This is what will attract millions of tourists to come to India and bring us foreign exchange. 100 Vande Bharats are already in operation. Sleeper Vande Bharat will be launched very soon. It's a story of continuous growth. 11 lakh crore rupees being spent on infrastructure in 1 year alone by the government. Friends, our rise as a global soft power has been seen by the whole world. Our achievements in sports, in culture, innovation. Look at Tamil Nadu's own contribution. Saturanga, chess, we are the powerhouse. Your own legends, Vishwanathan Anand, and the rising stars like Gukesh, the youngest world chess champion, and the golden siblings, Pragnananda and Vaishali, make the whole country proud. India is also reclaiming its rich cultural heritage. We have just celebrated on the 11th of January 1 year of the Pran Pratishtha of the Ram Mandir. A 500-year struggle which ended on 11th January, and before that, Prime Minister Modi's 11-day Anushthan in Tamil Nadu is truly memorable. Friends, our rise has seen women-led development. The empowerment of women has been the hallmark of Prime Minister Modi's good governance. They have always been the cornerstone of our development activities. The Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, the law that provides 33% reservation for our sisters and mothers and daughters, women, in all parliament and all of the legislatures across the country, has been waiting for 4 decades to happen. Prime Minister Modi made it happen on Ganesh Chaturthi Day last year. 2023 will will go down as a milestone year that our women will now be empowered in the future once the delimitation and census process is over. He has brought in the law against triple talaq to release our women, our sisters, from the bondage and from the sufferings that they were forced to undergo. The journey towards women empowerment has been driven by financial inclusion. 30 crore women today have their own bank account. Most of the homes that we gave under PM Awas Yojana are in the name of our sisters. Similarly, 1 crore women have been made Lakpati Didis. Whether it is making sure that every home has a cooking gas connection, which we have achieved already, or every home gets Nal Se Jal, tap water in their home, which is progressing very, very fast. Almost 16 crore homes have received Nal Se Jal, and another 2.5 years, every home in the country will have tap water connection at home. The idea is to reduce the burden on our sisters and help them to become a part of the formal economy and contribute to India's growth story. Roti, kapda, makan, health, education, bijli, sadak, pani, these were the problems that our people used to suffer from. Generations of suffering. The Prime Minister is trying to overcome and make sure that every citizen of India is blessed with all the basic needs of life so that they can all aspire for a better future, a more glorious future for them and their families. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the sum and substance of good governance and the rise of India that Prime Minister Modi has worked for the last 10 years at the center, before that 13 years in Gujarat, and will continue to serve the country in his third term with 3 times more energy, 3 times more effort, 3 times more speed, and 3 times bigger outcomes. Of course, the journey ahead is not without challenges. There are challenges within the country. There are challenges from outside the country. And very often, we have Chechens within our country, people who join with inimical forces, with forces against the interests of India overseas, and hurt the growth story, hurt the progress of India. Our progress faces opposition from those seeking to undermine our hard-earned gains and progress. Yet, India's resilience is so strong that we will overcome anybody, even if they go outside India and speak ill for India. Even if they go outside India and join forces with the gangs who do not want to see the progress of India, the people of India will persevere. The people of India will give them a befitting rebuttal and take the country forward. I would invite all of you to join in countering such anti-India forces, countering the propaganda of such anti-India forces, which Thuglak is doing very honorably. Guru Murthy ji is at the forefront of this effort. Every time there's a parliament session, there's an effort to disrupt parliament. Every time there is something good happening in India, they will try to disturb the economic progress of India. Let us all join forces, fight against this divisive politics, fight against the politics of appeasement, fight against the politics of identity, where they are trying to divide the country on religion, region, caste, or other grounds. And let us all go by the mantra of Prime Minister Modi, who had said during the many years ago as a Chief Minister of Gujarat, about 16, 17 years ago, he had said, every 5 years, secularism changes meaning. For me, that is for Prime Minister Modi, development gives the strongest foundation to secularism. And friends, solving the problems of this country will involve the fight against changing geopolitical environment across the world. There are two wars going on. The world economies are going through stress, are going through uncertainty, are going through challenges. Economic growth is faltering. International trade is seeing trouble. Within this disturbed geopolitical environment, India is an oasis as the fastest growing large economy in the world. I invite all of you to be a part of this growth story. I invite all of you to fight against the threats, whether it is cyber threats or the threats to our national polity that come from across borders. Let us all work together to continue this unprecedented journey to realize the vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047 when we celebrate 100 years of independence. Let us all work under Narendra Modi ji's leadership to make India a prosperous nation, to take growth to the last man at the bottom of the pyramid, to make every Indian, every proud Indian, a stakeholder in the growth journey of India. Thank you very much, friends. I want to invite all of you to give a round of applause for Mr. Gurumurthy, a man of substance, a man who stands for principles, a man who is willing to sacrifice everything for the nation, somebody who is a role model for a humble Karyakarta like me, somebody I've looked up to all my life, and somebody who inspires me to continue to serve the nation. Thank you very much, Gurumurthy ji, for your leadership.